welcome back, I should say. Katie and I are starting season 2 of Connecting Clarkston today, and we're super excited because we made it to season 2, first of all.
Yes.
That's a milestone for us. And something exciting we have this season, I should say, is we have a new theme song. So when you're listening, it's really fun. So debut today, this local band that is amazing. If you haven't heard One Ton Trolley, please listen up because they're amazing. And they have offered their song called Our Town to us as our theme song. Yeah. So we're very excited. And he's going to be on our podcast, the lead singer, Bill Arnold, next. So that's super exciting for us to start out.
That, I just saw that he's performing at Wiltsey's
I was
February
just going to ask you that. So is it the downstairs?
Yes.
I love what they're doing there.
Amazing.
Amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah, great.
Well, so starting our season 2, we're starting fresh new season. And we're starting with 3 very important guests here. Talk about new beginnings. It's sort of a new beginning for all 3 of you because you're all 3 newly elected to the Clarkston City Council. We have Miss Mayor here, Sue Wylie, and Council members Peg Roth and Ted Quisenberry. Thank you all for coming and spending the afternoon here with us to chit-chat.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Mm-hmm.
You're welcome. We all love Clarkston. I think that's probably assumed based on your, willingness to volunteer your time on the council. And Katie and our whole podcast is basically about Clarkston and the people and the stories and what makes it great, I guess, is our mission. And just to kind of highlight, what Clarkston's all about. So thank you for being here and sharing your stories. I guess maybe let's just start out right at the present. How did you guys find yourselves on the council? I know you all have probably volunteered and been a part of the community for a long time in various ways, but this year, how did you guys find yourselves on the council?
Sorry, just a quick little, how did you end up at Clarkston?
You want to start there?
Just because Sue was saying she was a teacher, which I assumed in Clarkston.
But it wasn't.
But it was not.
It was at Clarkston.
So yeah.
But I'm originally from Ohio, from the Cleveland area, and I moved to Clarkston in 1987 when my husband's job brought him to Michigan. And we're looking in Rochester and Troy and all sorts of areas, and somebody back in Ohio said, look in Clarkston, you will love it. And I still remember driving into town through Main Street. It was like, this is it. We're done looking. All we have to do now is find a house. And the first house was on East Lawn, right by Clarkston Elementary, and lived there from 87 until we moved to the city of the village of Clarkston in 94 on Middle Lake Road. And I love it. So that's how I ended up in Clarkston.
So it was in the 80s? That was when
Moved
you first?
in 87 to Clarkston, and 94 to the city of the village of Clarkston.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. And how about you, Peg?
I moved to Clarkston when my husband and I were married in 1977. Their family owned Food Town, and so I was indoctrinated to Clarkston right then. And from the time we moved in, I've done volunteer work throughout, and then even more so once our kids got into the school system. Originally we lived in Waterford Hills, so we were in Clarkston but not in Clarkston. So then we moved into the village, but we have been very active in the community throughout. So it's a great place to live.
Peg the other day and found out she owned Food Town. It's like, oh my gosh,
Brings back a lot. People are like, oh my gosh.
Yes, Food Town, which is now Salvation Army.
Correct.
And was
Before
it
that, it was Farmer Jack's.
Farmer Jack's.
So when we sold, we were trying to keep the employees that we had to keep seniority for them. Originally, it didn't work out, and then so we held out until we could secure for our employees, and so it worked out Farmer Jack's. So then turned in Farmer Jack's, and then the whole chain went out, and so that's when it became Salvation Army. So we still own the building, but so they are our tenants.
Okay.
Wow. Ted, how have you found your way to Clarkston?
Well, my mom and dad and our family moved to Clarkston in 1962, and just north of the village, actually out by, just north of I-75 in Independence Township, and we had a horse ranch there for 10 years, something like that. We moved out of Clarkston into Groveland Township in around 70, and my wife and I married, built a house out there, and we lived there. But my wife was a K through 12 student at Clarkston High School, Clarkston schools, lived in the orchards, And we always we thought we'd come back to Clarkston at some point in time, and we ended up moving back, buying a old historic home on Holcomb Street in 2020, ended up redoing it all and moved in 2021 and have been there since then. So back a long time ago, lived here, and now been back for 3 years, and so.
Nice. Well, I guess maybe I was jumping the gun about where we are now. One of the things I'm wondering about, since you guys all have lived here a long time and have seen Clarkston in many different phases and Independence Township, are there things that I kind of wonder about, things that have stayed the same, things that have been constant all these years? And I know things have changed, but have there been any, the thread that has remained the same through all the decades that you guys have lived here?
Rudy's.
Rudy,
Yeah,
good answer.
Yeah.
It was there. As I said, back in the early 60s, we would come up to town and we would know where all the different stores were at the time, where was, what location was where. There was a traffic light there in town, but it was a far different community than it is now.
Yeah. Other things that have remained the same aside from the businesses changing, obviously, and Rudy's is one of the old.
Depot Park for me. That's
Park.
even when I lived in Independence Township, we always came to Depot Park because it was the nicest little park and it was great for little children.
Geez, we did that with our kids.
Yeah.
Together,
Yeah.
we
Together,
both did. Yeah,
yes.
we had a group of us. We would go to Deer Lake, work out when our kids were very small, and then we would go to Depot Park. Yeah.
Okay.
It was back then, and still is right now, we'll call it the quintessential small town. And that part has changed, but it really hasn't. The whole concept of Clarkston and the residents and the homes and the neighborhoods that you have within the village has pretty much just remained a small, quaint town that people want to live in.
I agree. I mean, we came back and we raised our kids here too. I guess part of that's not a mystery maybe, but part of the mission that we have is why or what is it about Clarkston that keeps it that consistent, quintessential little town? Like, how are we able to grow and change but still remain charming and a place you want to raise your kids and your kids want to stay? And what do you think that special sauce is?
I think because we know each other. And so, like, you are here, and your dad, how many years ago was on the council with me? My kids left, and 2 out of the 3 of them have come back. So I think it's a comfort. I think it's a real comfort level with people knowing each other, calling your neighbors if you need something. Your neighbor down the road, they have grandkids or they get a new dog. It's a comfort.
I think it's maybe a little bit too when you're saying that, and I think we've had a lot of guests who live in Clarkston, maybe work in another community. Like I know we were just talking, right? You worked in Royal Oak.
Yes.
Yes. And I think yes, you come back home and you're known. Where I think a lot of the communities, it's hard to, and I don't know if it's because you have your roots here necessarily, and so. Like I always want to say there's like 2 degrees of separation between Anne and anyone else with her giant family.
That's
but true. I think it's the connections.
Yeah, definitely.
I think there's a lot of generations here. Like Peg said, her 2 of her children are living here. Like on my street, there's a number of families where their grandparents are here, their children are here. I think that's true all over Clarkston, where generations keep coming back and loving it.
And I do think the community aspect, I think people giving back, like what you 3 are doing, it kind of reminds me of people are willing to and step up to serve in the community. I mean, I'm sure you guys aren't on the council and you're not the mayor because you're making the big bucks, and that's not what you're doing it for. And I think that's also speaks to like creating this community. And I'm just kind of wondering, what do you guys hope to do, and what was your motivation to serve the community in this way, being on the council? And
I'm on a lot of different things, so I can tell you that there are a lot of people in this community that do a lot of volunteer, and they're always very hardworking and wanting to improve. And as we were talking about before you started recording this, things that are going on in this area that people don't know about, but there are a lot of people that work hard to make the community the way it is.
yeah.
So I think that is notable for our area.
Yeah.
Back to what you mentioned a little bit ago about the change in it, and and I think it's managing managing the change so that we can evolve and try to better ourselves, better the community in certain ways without losing the identity of what really makes us special and important. We can all look around us at communities that are far different than what they were 20 and 30 years ago because they didn't manage it. They allowed it to just progress as it did, and now it's an entirely different setup than it used to be. And it's very unusual and rare, and I think good, that a community can go through some of the changes, some of the growth, but still not lose its identity as to what it is. So,
Yeah, I agree. As mayor, do you feel this pressure to like, okay, we have to continue what has been done for decades now, and or how do you feel about this position that you said before? Yeah, I never thought I was going to be mayor.
I never thought I was going to be mayor. It was not on my plan. I've been on council for 7 years, and over that time, occasionally people would say, "We'd like to see you run for mayor," and I just said, "It's not what I want to do. I'll stay on council." But it almost fell in my lap because the previous mayor, Eric Haven, resigned, and I was mayor pro tem, and I had been for most of my time on council. And I said, "This is my time. This is what I want to do." So, do I feel pressure? Not pressure to keep things the same in Clarkston, because I think there's a lot of people who want to keep things the same in Clarkston. When I first ran for council, and I ran 7 years ago, our slogan was "Have a nice city," and I still want to see it have a nice city.
Yeah.
One of the things that, along with the people, one of the things that Clarkston has is we have all these beautiful historic buildings. That really helps. I think it reminds people of we can't give up on the past.
That's interesting. And what obviously there's a lot of historic buildings, and the Historical Society does a lot of work to maintain those buildings and maintain like the shared history of our town. Which is
We actually have two different groups. We have, within this Clarkston city government, we have the Clarkston Historical District, which legally and within the nation, the state, the locally, they manage to make sure that we follow certain city, people in that district follow the rules and make sure that we keep historic structures. But there's also the Clarkston Community Historical Society, which does not have any regulatory ability within the city, but they do help foster the love of something historical within not just Clarkston, but all of Independence Township. And I think they even spread out a little bit into Springfield Township.
So which one of those would be the ones that designate for example, the homes that have been on the Underground Railroad? There's a few that were, I think, identified in Clarkston, I don't know, some years ago. Do you know which group?
I don't know specifically which group. The signs that are out front are from the Clarkston Community Historical Society. I think there's a lot of people who are in both groups, so there may be a little bit of cross work.
Interesting. Okay.
I was just going to ask you, so there are 7 of you on the board. Who are the other 4 members that are not here?
Laura Rogers,
Amanda
Amanda Forte, Mark, and
Lamphere.
Mark Lamphere.
and
Gary
Casey.
Okay.
And you guys have gotten involved. Is there a
Wait,
way?
can I make one?
Oh, yeah.
Amanda's she's not Forte now, she's Amanda Wakefield.
Oh, okay. Noted. Okay. Are there projects, we were talking before, are there projects that you guys are actively working on that you'd like to talk about and let people know about? Because I know that, there's lots of different ways to hear about things, but I'm not sure that everyone hears everything. So are there certain projects that the council would like to kind of get the word out about, maybe things you need help with, projects that are coming up, anything like that?
Things that the community should be aware of.
I do. I have a few things, but I'm going to have to, in order to be accurate,
Yeah.
First of all, one of the things that I think is really cool, real estate one does in our in the real estate office that's right in town on Church Street and Main Street, is
Depot.
Depot.
Yeah.
Thank you. They have a couple times a year, and they call it Lunch for a Cause. And so all of the people that work there, they bring in, it's like a big potluck. It's really cute. And then they always designate it, for instance, on February 21st at noon. They're doing another one. This is benefiting SCAMP. So you go, they accept cash, and all the money goes to SCAMP. I've been there, they've done it for a cancer victim. There's always somebody from the community. It's really a nice thing that they do. And then Pinwheels, of course, through the, that is youth assistance.
Clarkston Area Youth Assistance.
Yeah, and that's the month of April. And so that's to prevent child abuse, and then it has expanded now to be also for the safety and well-being of our youth. There was a time we were afraid that some of the advertising that we put out, for instance, posters, things by the schools, that the child abuse was a little too much for the kids, so we were trying to soften and also to create more of what we were working on. So the month of April, you'll see pinwheels, blue pinwheels.
Do people purchase those?
Yeah, we call it planting a garden. So you make a donation, and then depending on what your donation is, that will tell how many of these, they're blue pinwheels you get, and you just stick them in the ground. For the bigger spots, we have little yard signs, and then we have big signs, like I put in front of the mills and in front of the Clarkston crossings. But that's what it's for. So the month of April, you'll see blue pinwheels. And every year it's gotten bigger and expanded more. Clarkston's been extremely good of people wanting to participate. It's been really, really nice. The other thing, July 4th parade, we have a new addition in our parade.
Ooh.
It's very cool. We always have someone special that does the national anthem right in front of what we call it the main stage, which is right in front of Rudy's. The other stage, second stage, is down the road by Miller. But it's a young man, he's 27 years old. At least Laura Rogers from the council was able to get me in touch with him. His name is Corbin Knapp, and every year on Robertson Court he sings the national anthem for his neighbors before the fireworks. And it's always been his dream to sing in the parade.
Wow.
So this year he's going to
cool.
be in front of Rudy singing the national anthem for us.
That's wonderful.
It is really very cool. And the other thing I just wanted to mention was the food donation in front of Calverley every Wednesday for those in need, and they're always in need, people to volunteer to hand out food. Just for a couple hours on a Wednesday, I think it's just so admirable of Calverley, the things they do. I think
So
that's
anyone can come up, this is at Calvary, anyone can come up to this, what is it, a food bank?
It's a food bank, is
Okay.
what it is. And you sign up through different, churches. You can call Calverley. I'm sure if you came in, got in line, I'm sure you would be able to. But most of the people are pre-registered. And so I think it runs from 8, I believe, I can't remember. It's been a couple months since I've done it, at least 6 months or so. Starts early in the morning, but it goes until I think 11.
Okay.
But at Calverley, they're always doing something, so just wanted to mention that.
Those are good.
I think that I have seen this sign a couple of times. Is it Chloe's Closet? There's some.
I think the
yes,
Clarkston
there
United
is.
Methodist Church does that, perhaps?
No, that's a pantry. That's a
I see
food
it heading
pantry.
like down to Depot.
There is.
And I keep
I wish
meaning to look
you would
into
ask me
that.
before, because I
Okay.
I totally forget what it is.
Okay. I'll have to look into it.
I'll send you something.
Okay.
My daughter knows about it.
Yeah, I've been meaning to look into that
Yeah.
for months. So okay.
There was, I would be guessing right now, so I won't
All right.
say what I think it is, and I can put this on the table now.
Okay.
You mentioned something about the things that the council is looking to do and stuff, and any projects or whatever. I mean, we're just now coming into our budget year, so we're going to be busy for a while getting the next year's budget in place and start that process, which we have to do every year. There's another issue that's been kind of on the table for a while, and it has to do with Depot Park and improvements or additions to the Depot Park area. And what we'd really like is to find out some community input. What is it that, if there is funding available, whether it's general fund or money generated from taxes that the city spends, or if it's donations or whatever, what is it that the community would like to see in Depot Park as far as additions and or improvements before decisions are made on what the money's going to be spent on? We'd like to have an idea is what are the users, what do they want, and give them an opportunity. That's something that's kind of on the table right now, and over the next couple months you'll probably be hearing a little bit more about that.
How does the council communicate with the community? How does that happen?
Well,
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, because as we were talking about this, so Eric Haven had come on with us quite a few times when he was acting as mayor. and was basically trying to get word out, you know, through the podcast, which we liked, and we want to offer that up to you guys too. Any of the council members that want to pop on occasionally and update on things, we'd like to be a resource for you to share information and connect with the community. So we have a newsletter that we send out, this e-newsletter that a couple times a month we'll send out, and it has information, just all different things happening in the community. And I think it was Tom Lowry had reached out to us and had asked, because we'll share a link to Independence Township trustee meetings, the school
Yes.
board meetings.
Yeah.
And he had said it would be nice if you could share things about Clarkston City Council. And I think the minutes from the meetings, which I think that that's a hard thing to send out and have people read the minutes.
They're not very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't want to be insulting,
But
but
no.
I don't know if that's like a real
Yeah.
page turner. Or
Is it
not.
recorded? Is it?
Well,
It
yeah,
is.
you
It's
were
on
just
Independence
talking
television.
to
Oh, it
Jonathan
is.
about that, and
Okay.
so I was, or John, sorry.
You know, you could do something though that would be like a highlight, what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
The problem with trying to get word to the community, what we used to use is the Clarkston News. That's not really available to us anymore. They used to come, Don Rush used to come to all of our council meetings and make notes on everything and interview us afterwards.
Yeah.
And, you know, comments. Now I think Matt might listen to the recording. I don't know how he gets his information, but it's really difficult because other than that, you and I talked about, you know, there is another person who puts out some things.
Yeah.
That's sometimes hard for people to read that one. So I was saying yours is more the flip side of that, where she's very informative and very detailed. You are more on the happy side of things. But you can't go door to door to people.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually did some checking because I understand the HDC has been doing something like that, and so I checked into it to see how, because that seems pretty invasive, and you know, and we're all being very cautious about people coming on our porch. It has to be something that's sanctioned by the city in order to do that kind of a survey. So short of the ways we used to do it, calling, people don't like to, you know, most of the time people don't even answer a phone.
Right.
It's very difficult to reach people.
Sometimes you have to force feed it, and there are ways that information, transparency government can be shown that we're doing it. I mean, the meetings are open to the public, they're televised, minutes are on the website. There is a new, well, I don't want to say an update that the township supervisor, Jonathan, puts out every week after the meeting, that is a summary of things that have just happened and other things that are going on that any of the residents can sign up for and can get. So the you say, how do you get things to the public? It's there, but a lot of times, sadly, people aren't interested unless they have something that is affecting them.
That's so true.
So, I mean, that's
Yeah,
part of
very
our
true.
underlying thing here too, is even with sharing out the school board videos and the trustee videos. There's so much information. One, we're all very busy. Nobody has time. I mean, I started watching the meetings to try to give summaries of them, which Ann's always like, okay, Katie, spent another 6 hours this week watching videos.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, and those meetings are very long.
They are
sometimes.
long,
Yeah.
but it is, I feel like, right, you aren't engaged until all of a sudden you have a very big reason to be engaged, and then it's catch up.
And then
I
it's-
lived
And
in-
like, where were you the whole time leading up to this?
Right.
I lived in Groveland Township for 42 years, and I think I went to a township board meeting twice, and it had to do with you know, some tax issue that was there, and that was it. There was nothing really to draw me to have to go. I stayed involved. I knew what was going on, but I just was an outsider, just aware. And sadly, that's the way most of the people are until all of a sudden the issue is theirs. But I think the information is there, and there are still other ways that we can go about and try to get it in front of them, even if they're not looking.
Is there any, are there any social media options that give that quick, you know, people are looking for that quick hit, the video, the, you know,
Engage.
these few sentences
I
update?
think too. I think We have an elderly population in Clarkston, so I think for a lot of what you were just mentioning, those people don't know how to access something like that. And so if you have a question, I guess I'm trying to think, you know, if you were someone who has a question, but if you really don't know where to go, I think it's hard to find.
Yeah.
Other than calling City Hall office.
Yeah.
The city does have a Facebook page. I don't believe it's used a lot, partly because there just isn't the manpower available in the City Hall staff to manage it.
Yeah.
And they do have a lot of emails. Everybody in the city, or even outside the city, is invited to be included on the email list, which does include Jonathan Smith, the city manager's letter that he sends out every week. And people can look on the website, and we are getting a new website. The website we have right now is a little it's a lot outdated, and our city clerk, I believe, is in the process of working on getting the new one implemented. So hopefully that'll help too.
What is the average age of the city of the village? Do you know offhand?
I do not.
Of the residents?
The only thing I know is, and I looked that up before coming today, it's something like 60% of the population does not have children. So that would make about 40% does have children. But that doesn't mean they're necessarily elderly. They could be people who just don't have children yet, or maybe never will have children.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I know when my dad was here chatting with us,
Yeah.
the first episode
First
of
one.
season
Ever
1,
guest. Yes.
first ever guest, he and Missy Ludd.
It's
He
actually our most viewed episode.
It is?
Yep. I just
Aw.
was looking. Yep.
Shout out to Dad. But he was talking about how he is really interested in getting the next generation involved, and he's working with the environmental group here at the high school, and he lives in the village also, obviously, and I think we were just kind of brainstorming a little bit about how to, pass the torch to the next generation, because it isn't always going to be 60% and above have no kids. I'm sure it's going to flip over in the village. I would assume. I don't know these
Hopefully,
things, but
sure.
hopefully,
Turns over.
you want to. And so I guess I'm just kind of sitting here wondering. I don't have an agenda about it at all, but just wondering how do you engage the next generation to become, because not everyone is civically minded just by nature, right? So like you were saying, Ted, they get involved if they find an issue that's important to them, but you kind of have to be involved with a lot of it so you understand the whole story, and you can have an informed opinion. I'm just kind of wondering, how do we get other people involved that are younger, maybe?
So probably social media.
Yeah.
It's probably
And
the
I
best
think that
way.
was something like Eric Haven had talked a lot about, and yes, your dad
Remember
had
we
talked a
talked
lot
about
about, and I wonder too, even just with like student government here, I feel like a lot of opportunities probably lie within the school.
Yeah.
And bringing those kids in, just even as a learning experience. I think for me, just talking to you guys, I didn't know you had to have 7 people on a board.
Even the American Legion actually has the same type of thing. A
Okay.
program where they send high school students, and they are assigned different positions in the government, so that they're learning that as well.
Yeah.
But I've talked about that with people with the Rotary and the Optimist. How do you get people? Like, my kids have been involved in everything I've put on, but they want to be in a situation where you're doing something. They don't want to go to 7 o'clock meetings in
And
the morning,
watch.
and they don't want to go to 6 o'clock meetings in the evening because they're too busy.
Right.
Yeah.
And so my kids will come, they'll pack boxes for the troops. They have done all the things, a parade. Somebody's missing that's supposed to be marching in the parade, I throw them shirts and tell them to go get in line. And they are always willing and wanting to do this, but they don't want, it's got to be reshaped somehow.
Yeah.
So that it's not, in order to be involved, you can't, they won't come. They just
Yeah.
will not do those meetings.
Right.
And so we keep talking and, throwing it around. How do you get them involved when what you want them to get involved in is to sit in meetings like that, and they won't.
Your 4th graders, when your children are in 4th grade, they all come to Clarkston City Hall as part of the Village of Clarkston tour, so they have been there. Maybe some way of continuing that aspect and letting them, again, see more about local
like
government.
a little follow-up.
follow
You
up,
know,
maybe get
there's-
see township government and city
Yeah.
government and state, well, they see state government probably also in 4th grade maybe.
Or I think
They
it
do a
is,
trip,
yeah.
yeah.
You go to
Yeah.
Lansing.
Might
in
go to
fourth
Lansing.
grade,
But
yes.
Independence Township, that would be, I mean, Paul would probably be willing to set that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How closely do you guys work with Independence Township, speaking of?
I'm very good friends with the board. I actually wanted to be on the board, but I'm a resident of the village.
can't.
So I couldn't.
can't.
And unless I
Yeah.
move into one of our rental units, I couldn't be on the board. But I think they're an incredible group of people.
I think there's a close relationship between Jonathan Smith, the current Clarkston city manager, and people in Independence Township because they continuously reach out. And Clarkston, we use a lot of Independence Township services. Our fire department, our police services, even though the police is county sheriff, it is, I think it's administered through Independence Township. We share a library. We share sewer services, so there's a lot between both communities.
Are there any other communities in our area that have the setup that we have between like the city of the village and Independence Township?
Rochester and Rochester Hills is a possibility, but I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah, I don't know that
Tend
it's
to be a better-
uncommon. I think that, like, you take the village of Holly and the township of Holly, or the village of Ortonville and the township of Brandon. I think they all have a similar setup like we have here, and it may not be as cohesive. But to the point that you mentioned, I think it'd be a good idea if there was more interaction formally and structurally with the city and the township. I know there's other communities that are side by side with one another, and every once in a while they have an exchange. One of the board members from the township would come and exchange seats with a board member from the village, just so that you get some exposure. I say village, I mean city. Exposure to what the others are going on, and it would probably help. And maybe even if it's just a meeting twice a year between the two boards to talk about issues that are similar to both of them. I think that'd be a good idea. I don't think that's being done, but I just think it'd be something that would be worthwhile going into. So
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear the two boards never meet.
We've had Pat Kittle, who was the former township supervisor, come to our meetings. I can't think of anybody else elected official who has been, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened. And Dave McKee, who is or was one of the, I can't say what he does exactly for the township. I know he's involved with sewers. He has come to our meetings several times.
Okay.
I think the place that we do cross is through the chamber, though, because those of us that sit out, well, I'm not on the board anymore, but at one time, I mean, Pat Kittle, Paul Brown, so we would all, I guess there is where we sit and chat,
So there's some room for growth,
share stories.
maybe,
Yeah,
and
that's a good idea.
certainly.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
the topics on most of that interaction is probably increasing commerce and whatever, and not so much governmental services and what can we do to benefit each other, but both of them, the chamber as well as a more interactive role that each of the units have with one another. So.
Right. I mean, they're pretty symbiotic. You can't have downtown without residents, and you can't really,
Right.
your residents need that downtown or
100%.
want the downtown.
We're all Clarkston.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Speaking of Clarkston, okay, so you guys have lived here a long time. I don't know if you thought about this before you got here, but looking for some hidden gems, some little,
Yes.
some secret stories that maybe you want to reveal today.
Or ghosts.
Or ghosts. We do like to hear about ghost stories, but I think, like, what's I don't know, something that people may not know about Clarkston, a hidden spot, a hidden story, a hidden
A
ghost.
book, perhaps.
A book that you,
Yeah.
whatever, any kind
the
of little
book.
gem.
I have to say that at the time that we owned 90 North Main, which we did for a while, and we cleaned it all out, and we were one of the stops for the 3rd grade tour, and so I sat in the front on the steps, and I was the hostess. The stories of families when they came in of what went on in the building.
Which
and
building? I'm sorry, tell me which building.
90 North Main.
Where Union
The old-
joints
the
are,
old
their
Township
headquarters.
Hall.
Oh, Old Township Hall.
Old
Okay,
Township
okay,
Hall.
gotcha. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, so we owned that until we made the switch.
Okay.
And then
All right.
the township moved into one of our buildings, and we took over 90 North Main.
So wait,
It was
you
quite a
own-
bit of controversy at the time.
Okay.
You own the one that the township's in now?
Yeah, we built those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Right behind the old food town, now
Yes.
Fanny Jack's. So yeah,
Yeah.
that property was
Yeah.
ours, and Bob built those.
Okay.
But the stories of, the dog obedience classes and dance classes and cooking classes, and so we were going to try to incorporate those into what we put into that building. Unfortunately, none of that could possibly ever be approved, so we finally gave up, and Kirk Catello took the building over.
Okay.
But no, the stories of people just would walk in and say, I remember coming to dance class with my husband. It was our big night out. And
In the
Amy
library right
Tower
next
Labassemeer
door.
was on
that was the
talking about
library,
that.
and turned out the police department.
So I just thought of this as Peg was talking, a hidden gem, as far as I know it's still there, the airplane behind there. Is
Yeah.
the airplane still back there?
It is, and my husband just drove by. He's like,
What?
"Why is there an airplane back there?" I have no idea.
I think it belongs to
Do you
Kirk
know?
Catello.
It
I
does
think.
belong to Kirk Catello, and he brought it in. Another thing about that particular building is there is an underground tunnel that goes from the big building to the building behind. It was a factory, and they made parachutes,
Oh, I
and
didn't-
that's where the people went from the main building underneath into the back building.
Why was there? Why did they need a tunnel?
Yeah, I was just, I don't know, Henry Ford, I think, built it
Yes,
originally.
right.
That I don't know.
think that was
It
originally
sounds like a
built.
Henry Ford.
And and I think that was part of his, he wanted to do everything water powered, which is why the dam is there.
Right.
That's what we call it.
Yeah.
For your listeners, though, if they're looking for the airplane, it's behind 90 North Main.
Behind that second building.
Right behind
right?
it,
It's behind what
to the right. It's
Yeah.
between the library and the big building.
Is
Yeah, a
it
little
You
bit
can
south.
see
like
it.
you have to drive back there?
You can
to
see it coming down
I have
M15.
never seen an airplane driving down.
Oh, you can't.
You just drive back to the parking lot and
Yeah.
you can see
Okay.
it.
It's a full-size airplane.
Is it a military
I
airplane?
think it's a military.
I don't remember.
That's
It's
a
small-
curiosity.
It's not a
Okay.
Big
small
plane.
plane. It's not a.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a private plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did gymnastics up there. and
See?
that- yeah,
There's a
and
story
there's a story for
everywhere.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that building is.
If you can't see it, it's probably a stealth bomber.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it is.
Exactly.
No, if you look going down M15, if you're stuck in traffic, before, right in the strip that runs between the little white house and the red brick building, you will see an airplane.
Okay, that was a great hidden gem.
I know. Any ghosts?
I don't know any ghosts.
Ghost stories. We were considering. We've talked about ghosts a lot. I don't know
Yeah.
how it came up or when, but we're considering doing an event that's ghost related, maybe in the
Yes.
fall. So we're
Stay
just
tuned.
compiling information here. At the house that we're at, I feel like there's some ghosts.
Didn't the
for sure.
HCC do something like that? A walk?
Maybe.
I-
I feel like
I'm
maybe
pretty
we heard
sure
something
they
about
did.
that. Or wait, no, was it the cemetery tour?
I think it was about the village. I could be wrong, but
Okay,
the
we'll have to look
HCC
into
did
it.
something about
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Any other hidden gems or secret stories that you want to reveal about
I
our
can't
town?
think of anything.
I'm too new, I don't know.
You too new.
I'm trying to think
I
of
don't
buildings.
believe
These two are
there
much
and-
more long-lived here.
Yeah, I can't think of any other stories.
No.
That's okay.
I really think sometime you guys should do a podcast, get some of the old timers
That would
children,
be-
and
yeah.
get them to come here and tell, like the guys people lived on Robertson Court.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and many of them are not around anymore, but their children are, and their children are still telling stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's, one of the fun things about this is hearing stories about Clarkston and, just everyone has a story like
Gosh,
about
Carolyn
that building.
Versus has been back. She's been there for a long time. Tim, her son.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
He lives right next door to Mark.
Oh,
Or
okay.
she does.
Okay.
Yeah, Tom. Yeah.
I feel like I talk about this a lot, but somebody mentioned how the bake shop used to be open 24 hours a day.
It does sound vaguely familiar.
Yeah.
I do not ever remember that. I do
Yeah.
remember the bookstore though, that a car hit. Remember that? Demolished the building. And
I
that
remember a
was
bookstore. I remember a
yeah, it
car
was right
having
on the
it.
corner before where Honcho starts.
Yeah, the gray building.
And I mean, that car went right up the building. It's
the
like
car.
laid up on it. Yeah, it hit the side of the building. So that I think was the end of that.
The
Used
big
to
store,
be
that's the one that was right
library.
next to Terry's Market.
Yes.
Oh, it was in a different location?
Aren't you talking? You're not still talking. We're still talking about the current Clarkston Village Bakery.
Yeah.
The one that's still there.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's.
Next to
It used to be
Hallman's.
open longer, because I remember going by and seeing people sitting in there late at night.
Yeah.
Wasn't it next to Hallman's? Isn't that what was in?
Hellman's is where Essence,
Essence.
on Main is
Essence.
now.
Okay.
And then the old sporting goods was right next to that at the
Yes.
corner where the little two South Diner is.
That was Coach's? Is
That was,
wasn't that
no, it
Coach's
was
Corner?
long before Coach's. It was just called Clarkston Sporting Goods.
Oh, and was there a bait shop too? Didn't we talk about how there used to be a bait shop down there somewhere?
That was the bait shop.
That was the
back
bait
of the
shop.
Sporting Goods was the bait shop.
Okay.
I know how we got into ghosts because the Masons, when the Masons were here.
Oh yeah, that's
Because
how.
their building has a known ghost. What I forget his name.
Oh yeah, I forget it too.
A number of people who live in old houses have told me they have ghosts, but
Yeah.
I could, since it goes in one ear and out the other, I couldn't tell you who those
All right.
people
Well,
were.
the next time, send
Next
them
time,
to
yes.
us.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, so as we kind of wrap up, think about things that you may have wanted to talk about that we haven't talked about, but also kind of your hope for the future for
Did
Clarkston.
Peg talk about her book?
Oh, yeah, you wanted to talk about that.
I will.
Yeah.
What did I say? This was in 2018. I just read about, there was something in the Oakland Press about this soldier.
There you go.
Thank you. A soldier who,
Hold it right up there.
right up there. A soldier that came back and he severely injured. And how his settlement back home was and how his children had to deal with their friends. And so I called his wife. Called his wife and I got a couple copies, and so when I got them, I just thought it was so impressive, and because everybody knows a veteran, and many of these veterans don't just look like that, but they have some severe problems, and our veterans are not being cared for. So I thought it was a fascinating book, and I took it to the American Legion. I bought a couple of them, took it to the Legion, and I said I thought it would be a great thing for them to sponsor, and they did, and we supplied them to all of the elementary schools, the libraries, the little libraries, and I keep one on our table at home for my kids' friends, my grandkids' friends to read. I think it's a very important book for small children to have some understanding of what, we have so many veterans in this country and many so disabled, and I think it's good for them to be exposed to something like that. So I'm very proud that the American Legion took it up.
And what's the name of it and who's the
It's
author?
called A Hero at Home.
And who's the author?
Sarah Berardo, and she is the wife of and the mother in the family. So it's a great book, but it's available in the schools, all
And the
the elementary
libraries?
school,
The
and
library?
the little libraries, and the library.
Oh, the little
Yep.
library.
Yeah.
And the big
Amazon.
library,
Okay.
And on Amazon.
probably. And on Amazon, he's saying.
Oh,
I
okay.
wouldn't know about
Yeah, I
that.
bet.
I bought it from the family.
Okay.
But anyway, I think it's a really good informative book for
Yeah, I'm
kids.
glad you remembered that.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So wrapping up, hope for the future for Clarkston as you guys start this new year. What are you hoping things? how they
Actually,
go?
Sue said it. We wanted to
let's
be.
let's have a nice city.
Let's have a nice city. Let's have people be treated fairly, kindly, respectfully. You know, your approach is huge in how things develop with a conversation. And I think in our small community where we all live and know each other, the amount of litigation is so ridiculously unnecessary and expensive and such a waste of money. And I think sometimes if people can sit down and talk to each other, a lot can be resolved. But I think we need to remember that where we live is not, you know, it's a place where people live. And so I think we need to be respectful of that.
I think we need to embrace what we have. And we didn't get this overnight, this whole community effect that we have, but we just need to embrace it and recognize the fact that there's probably a couple dozen communities all around us in Oakland County and probably northern Genesee or something like that would give their eye teeth to have a community like this, and we have it. And just be able to embrace that.
2 words that each of them said: embrace the community and respect for each other, and respect for not just the members of the community, but respect for the historical value of the city of Clarkston. And I think we should do that. I think everybody on council does that, and hopefully we'll continue and see that go into the future.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I like what you said. That's a nice slogan for Clarkston. Have
Yeah.
a nice city.
It is
It means a lot.
We had our signs.
It
Rick
was.
Dickowski and I ran for council
Yep.
7 years ago,
Yeah.
and we had those signs all over the place.
And they all
That
had
was nice.
big yellow
Smiley
smiles
face.
Oh,
on
I
them.
remember that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
that
that's
was
right.
us.
That was you, Rick? Oh, that's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Well,
You know, I think part of what I personally think we need to remember is this is not Dearborn. This is a place where people live, and I think we need to be tolerant. And when I believe most people, when they know what they're expected of, will do it. And I think when they're being asked to do something, I think they need it just about respect, kindness. Yeah.
I like that. Well, we certainly appreciate you guys coming on today to talk to us, and we always ask everybody before we leave, who would you recommend we talk to next? So if you guys have a few people you could recommend,
I have a list.
let's hear it.
I really
So
wish it was
many
like a
people.
rollout.
I know, like,
yeah.
If you don't want me to read the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hear them.
So I started with Emily Duthan and Sue Julian, who are the Blue Heron Headwaters Land Conservancy. They're probably on your list. Tony Smith and Jonathan Smith. Jonathan Smith's the city manager, and Tony is the president of the he's the president of the Clarkston Community Historical Society, and Tony runs the museum for
Are
that
they
organization.
related? They're both
They're
Smiths?
they're yes, spouses.
Oh, got it.
I'm going to say her name wrong. Emma Davis Donay from Essence on Main, the owner
Oh,
there.
yep.
She would be awesome.
Yeah.
Julie Meredith from the Clarkston Independence District Library. Debbie Berry, who's president of the Optimist Club. Kirk Catella, Ann Stevenson, and Eric Lines from Union Joints. Ed Adler and Bob Roth and Tara Hansen, who are related to Peg, and I think they would be awesome. They could maybe talk about the Dam.
They will talk about the dam.
And here's one group: Laura Rogers, Amy Wilson, who ran the Clarkston Christmas Market, and the robotics team Rush, the Clarkston High School team Rush, whose lead teacher was Kyle Hughes. They ran the parade, and maybe all those people together. I know you said you don't necessarily want a big group. That's my list.
Wow.
Yeah, they run
Good list.
the Christmas parade, the lighted
Between
parade.
the parade and the
Yeah.
Christmas
we
market.
have your
Oh,
list?
Yeah,
absolutely.
could we have it?
Yeah.
And I
you.
had one name I didn't read. But.
Okay.
Now
Keep
I'm
that
curious.
secret.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, that would be
Tom
great.
Stone. I think Tom Stone
Okay.
has
Oh,
he has
okay.
lots of history, so
Got
he's
it.
another
Oh, Tom
possibility.
Stone would be a great
Is he a
guest.
mystery man?
No, that's
Oh.
Chuck.
Oh, Chuck. Okay. All
But,
right.
Tom Stone has been mentioned before.
Yes, he
Okay.
has. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, he
Good
is the voice of
recommendations, yeah.
authority. He and I catch up for lunch every once in a while, so I can
Okay.
get his. He's like my mentor. Yeah, he's got a wealth of information. A lot of what Sue just mentioned, I mentioned. The other one, though, I wanted to talk or mention was Meals on Wheels. I did that with our kids for 2.5, 3 years when they were middle school. And over the course, I think I was telling you, over the course of a summer, whoever was at our house Friday night for sleepovers knew to be in my car at 9 o'clock the next morning. And over the course of the summer, I think we counted 50 kids came with us. They have no idea about what our elderly people that are shut-ins are experiencing. It was a wealth of information. We had the most incredible conversations driving between 12 homes, delivering food, and the kids would come in. One of them, she had no idea what she was walking into. I couldn't get her out of their homes. And she said, Mrs. Roth, I can't wait to come on and do this again.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was a good experience. So people with small children, the elderly appreciate it more than you can even imagine. They wait for these. Some of them are shut-ins that don't see people all week.
Okay.
It's really an important program, but it's great for children to learn.
Yeah, I don't often
Yeah.
hear about kids participating.
Normally they don't.
That's
I mean,
great.
these people, when I would walk in with our little kids, and I had 3 of them, so I would have
Yeah.
6. And they were just mesmerized, and they had treats ready for them.
Oh.
They planned. I mean, I know this one couple, he was 90, she was 91, he was 93, and we were their only people that they saw all week long.
Wow.
Other than during the week, other
Meals on Wheels.
when people delivered. But
Yeah.
it's just a really good learning lesson for kids.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Any recommendations, Ted?
I had a list, but they took it.
kind of monopolized
Yeah,
the list.
kind of swiped my list on me.
No
So.
one else to
Alright.
add? It's a very comprehensive
Yes.
list.
Yeah.
It's a good list, yeah. So thank you. We appreciate it.
Yes.
And we appreciate your time.
Well,
Thanks
thank
for coming
you.
to
Thank
talk
you,
to
guys.
us.
I
Thank
love
you.
what you guys are doing. I think it's such a great, and the board, the game
Yes.
is really, really cool.
It's exciting.
We're excited.
This podcast is brought to you by Independence Television, located inside Clarkston High School. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Independence Television, Independence Township, or Clarkston Community Schools.